Let's go.
Okay.
Welcome to Trekommendations, the only Star Trek podcast that brings on a guest to share something they love and think others would too from the greater cache of Star Trek related content. And joining me this week is a man that has a reputation on TrekCulture for not liking Star Trek. He is here to prove them all wrong. It is the fantastic Tom Roberts-Finn.
Thank
Tommy,
you.
welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. You've had Ellie, you've had Sean. Now it's time for everyone's least favorite member of TrekCulture. It's Tom.
Ironically, you were the first one that I invited on and said yes.
Yep.
And yet you're the last one to record. So
I was just telling my wife about that today. I was like, I think I spoke to him first, invited him on. And I invited him onto our podcast. He invited me onto his podcast first. And I'm the last one on. But I think I also had tonsillitis like the next day. So there's
there
excuses.
were multiple weeks you were missing from TrekCulture as well.
There
Yeah,
was.
yeah. And some people say, save the best till last. So,
Exactly.
I don't know.
But some
Yeah.
people are lying. That's why.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's my way of telling people this is the final episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Please don't unsubscribe. I've worked hard to get you here. Stay here.
Yeah,
Wonderful. Tom, as you know, I like to start with some calibration questions. Never more have I felt they're important than when speaking to you. As we subtly mentioned, this reputation that precedes you, this unearned reputation that precedes you. Here is my first calibration question for you. We have 10 Forward, we've got Quarks, Vic Fontaine's, Captain Pike's quarters by the looks of things. There's a lot of locations where you could enjoy a drink with your friends. Where would you hang out with your friends in the Star Trek universe?
Good question. I tell you what, it won't be. It wouldn't be 10 Forward in Picard because none of that makes any sense. We can pretend it didn't happen. Where would it be? I think it depends. I think I've got two options. I think I'm never going to answer your questions properly, so deal with that.
That's fine.
I think if I want a nice, quiet drink where I'm hanging out with a mate, we haven't seen each other for a while, it would be 10 Forward on the Enterprise D. Because you've got those big windows. It's kind of got like a relaxed bar vibe.
Mhm.
Sometimes Riker might be playing jazz in the background.
But does that cause you to stay or leave?
It depends. I think it's funny for a moment, and then after a while, you're like, okay, you pack it in now. But if you want, if I'm hanging out with a bunch of people who want more of a rowdy time, I think it would be Quarks. It's a bit. It's got everything you want, including some potential things that maybe he's got women. I never really understood that. Does he just have women working for him? That was kind of the thing, right? It's a bit like
all
Hulu.
innocent. It's all innocent. Don't worry. Don't think too much about it.
Okay. Well, yeah, Quarks for a good time. 10 Forward for a nice, quiet time.
Right. Okay. Nice. The day that you combine the two will be interesting when it's sort of like you go out for that, you hit Quarks first and then, that friend starts to tell you about all the problems in life and you're like, hold on a second.
Yeah, this is the wrong place for this. Come on.
Let's go to 10 Forward. Riker, you will not be needed.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. Next question. So we've encountered numerous alien species in Star Trek. I'm not going to ask which is your favorite, but if you had to be one of these aliens, taking on all their traits, good and bad, what alien would you want to be?
Interesting. Man, I wish I thought about these things beforehand so I could come up with a good answer.
Yeah.
Let me have a thinky. I think Betazoids are funny. Betazoids are what Deanna is, right?
Yes. Well, she's half.
She's half Betazoid. Because there's Betazoids and then there's Deltazoids.
Deltans?
Deltans. See, I get them confused, and then I'm like, which one's the sex one? That's what they were about, right?
Well, some would say both.
Yeah, that's true. I think Betazoids are funny. They're like an interesting concept. I think they're never really done very well in the actual show. They're kind of just like a weird, I've said before in the podcast where Deanna just goes, I think this person's lying. And I'm like, oh, thanks a lot, Deanna. Really helpful. We couldn't figure that out.
Yeah.
Um,
The twirling of the mustache just wasn't enough of a clue.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We're speaking to a Romulan. We know they're lying. Don't worry about it. But I think that would be an interesting thing to be able to that sort of empath alien, like
Mhm.
feeling other people's emotions. I think that would be quite helpful for me to know what's going on with other people.
Oh, you're like,
Um,
"Finally, I can navigate society."
yeah, yeah. But that's how you have a conversation. Okay. Um, but do I actually want to be that? Probably not. I think I'd be. I tell you who I love. Orions. I love an Orion. I think they're
Yeah.
really underutilized.
Mhm.
And I think we could see so much more of them because sometimes they're seen as like the pirate people, um, and like they're very famous in Star Trek, but they're not like used. I think just because they're like in iconic scenes.
Yeah.
But I think I'd like to be an Orion pirate.
Yeah. I think Tendy's doing a lot of the heavy lifting of kind of restoring the
Yeah,
reputation. Yeah.
and that was the
Nice.
thing. I thought we were going to get like more Orion stuff with Tendi, but that kind of just happened in like an episode, and then they were done with it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Never mind.
Well, there's always time. I mean, imagine if that's the new Star Trek film they come
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
It's
I'd
just
actually like that.
an Orion pirate movie. That's all it is.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would work with their kind of style as well. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what it has to be. That's it.
That's such a curveball, isn't it? Wonderful. Okay. It's another one you're going to maybe need a little bit of time to think about. But your final
Okay.
question is, who is your favorite bad guy or bad guys or villains, antagonists within the Star Trek universe?
Mm. Yeah, let me go through them, and I see. I do like the Romulans because they make me laugh. I've always said like I really like in Lower Decks when they're like the episode they're about to go into Romulan space and they turn around and it cuts back to the Romulans. They're like, "Oh, damn it!" and they get really upset that they they couldn't have their evil fun. Like I find that funny about them. I think the Cardassians are fun, and like we're such a huge part of Star Trek, and then just never a part of Star Trek really ever again.
Mhm.
Um, like I know there's a few like half Cardassians and stuff like that spread throughout, but I think they're fun. Um, I I tell you what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with the I'm going to go with the Ferengi. I think the Ferengi as villains are so silly. Um, and
Yeah, I think
then
Quark would have something to say about you just tarring all Ferengi as villains, but yeah, no.
well, that's the thing. So when
TNG Ferengi maybe
yeah,
will.
when they were like the villains in Star Trek, it was very funny and silly, and they had their big electric whips,
Yes.
and you couldn't take it seriously. Like that image of like the Ferengi's head just on the screen taking up the whole ship and TNG, so ridiculous. But then they fleshed them out into more interesting types of characters,
Mhm.
and they were more like sneaky, and they loved trade and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Which I think that makes them more interesting villains when they are more on the villain role, like in some DS9 episodes when normally it's Ferengi versus Ferengi trying to out scheme each other. I think that's so fun and interesting, and makes for a different kind of story than just the oh no, the Cardassians are coming kind of thing.
Yeah. I think, yeah, the I mean, that was, as much as everyone criticized Deep Space Nine, when it was launching, the fact that, oh, but they're not going to get to go out and explore. The benefit of being in one location meant like the Bajorans, the Cardassians, they really could flesh them out because
Hmm.
they're always next door, right? So you've got a constant, and then obviously Quark and the Ferengi being on the station. So it lent itself to that. Whereas exploration Star Trek by default kind of means every week you're somewhere else.
Yeah,
I think,
that's the problem with as much as I love villain of the week. When you do the villain of the week, you can't flesh them out. They're kind of just either
no.
villains or they're not. Obviously, it's not exactly that, but yeah, with DS9, it's like, well, what if the villains and the heroes live with each other and they have to communicate? And how do they do that?
Mhm.
Um, I tell you who he used to be a favorite of mine, but I don't like as much anymore because of Discovery. Is the which I've now forgotten their names. Welcome back to Tom forgetting everything in Star Trek when he's pressured to talk about it. Um, who were the people in Discovery season 5 who we saw from DS9? It's the Breen.
Oh, and I'm glad we didn't have to look that up at all.
Yes, we definitely didn't forget the name. I loved the Breen in DS9 because they were so strange and scary, and it's that kind of thing of like when you don't show, what these
Yeah,
people are, it
until you
leaves
do.
up. Yeah, it leaves up to the imagination until you do, and they're squishy
I
green jelly people.
I'd forgotten, like, that whole thing. But
Season
now you said it, it's like, "Oh, yes, yes, she was with him, and they were on the run together," and they're like
Yeah.
that whole I've just remembered the whole of season 5, but for a second, it was
Season
gone.
5 is a strange beast of discovery. Like it was such a part of Star Trek until it was over, and then you forgot all about it because it was so like singular in what it was
Yeah.
doing. Um, but yeah, they just for me they really screwed up the Breen. It was we were so excited to see what they were, and
Mm.
then them just being like these jelly things that all of them talk like this, and you're just like, ugh. They were so interesting before, and now it's like whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I mean, I feel like I watched that just to make sure I could tick off continue
Yeah,
ticking off the list of having seen every episode of Star Trek. So I was like, well, I need to watch this, but maybe I didn't go into it with the correct passion that I should have. That's my
yeah.
fault. That's on me. That's on me, everyone.
I have to watch it for work, so I have no
Oh
choice.
yeah, I didn't even have that excuse. I just had to watch it because I'm a completionist.
Yeah.
My Cardassian thought that I will share with you just because you work with Ellie, so you guys do a lot of Voyager talk, is I still think that it would have been a fun idea to have Seska have to reveal that she is Cardassian and then stay on Voyager. And
Mm,
during the duration of the journey, constantly being in conflict of like, this would be the quickest way to get home versus, well, this is the Starfleet thing to do, and this is why we're doing this. And then over time, her being won over by kind of,
yeah.
oh, this is why the Federation behaves the way it does. This is why, but her being full Cardassian, like just embracing it, and then kind of we'd get back, and maybe she could be then like the first Cardassian actually accepted into Starfleet or something like that. That would have
Mhm.
been my little note, my little writer's note for what I'm sure, Ellie and Linda and different ones will tell us is the perfect Star Trek series and doesn't need notes, but
Well, I was about to
did.
say, wait, are you telling me that Star Trek Voyager made some mistakes along the way?
I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare.
No.
I leave that to other people. This is a positive show. Um, well, here we are. I need to add to the screen something
Mhm.
very important.
Okay.
So bear with me one second while I
It's my home
bring
address.
it's your home address. So everybody just quickly write that down. There it is.
Yeah.
So we have a clock.
Okay, cool. I was wondering if I get to see the clock myself. I'm glad
You
I
do
do.
get to see the clock yourself. Yeah. Now, don't reveal the secrets that doesn't look like the clock that appears in the final
Sorry.
video.
Wow, what an interesting clock. Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's too beautiful. I can't possibly let people see the real one. Um, Tom, I'll let you finish your sip of coffee, and then I will ask you, please, in 60 seconds or less, could you share with us your recommendation, what it is, and why you've brought it to the show?
Yes. So I'm going to speak really slowly. No. I have something which I've been describing as more Star Trek adjacent, but I think it's pretty Star Trek. And for fans of Star Trek, you will like it. It is called Fan Fiction, a Mem-Noir inspired by true events. And this is the book by Brent Spiner. I have listened to the audiobook, so I'm recommending the audio version of it, and it is basically a story about written by Brent Spiner, narrated by Brent Spiner during his time on TNG, and it's full of classic Brent Spiner humor and references, and it's got all like I think most of the cast of TNG do a voice on it somewhere, and it's basically a mixture of his actual time on TNG with a made up noir story around it where he's been like threatened, and it's got loads of Star Trek references. Lots of fun, very good. I recommend you guys listening to it now. Well, after this podcast.
Yeah. Oh, see, you'd finished on time, and then you threw in the after this
I know. I
podcast,
realized I didn't want
and
people to just leave the
and
podcast.
yeah, and all because you made a joke at the beginning about speaking really slowly.
Yeah, I did it to myself.
Okay. Oh, I've got so many questions. I've never heard of this, so
Mhm.
this is fascinating, and I think, you're not the first person to bring on something I hadn't heard about, but usually that's just because there is a, exhaustive list of Star
Yeah.
Trek novels and things like that, and I'm like, oh, that specific one I'd not. And
Mhm.
what's weird is someone will mention one that I've not heard about, and then 5 more people will mention it in conversation subsequently, and I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
maybe I
It's
had already heard of this, but it just never
I think there's a name
twigged
for
what
that
it
when
is."
you see something for the first time and then you realize it's always been there. Yeah, it's very strange.
But, so first of all, I noticed the name. It's not a memoir, it's a
No.
mem-noir.
Yes. So it's not like actually about his life. It kind of begins that way. It's really interesting. It begins about his journey from like how he got into the industry to, and it sort of just very quickly jumps to him being on TNG. The thing is, I think I don't know enough about his life to actually know like is that his journey
Right.
or is this all made up? Which I,
So we're assuming it's satire unless
yeah.
we discover that, "Oh, wow, actually."
Yeah, exactly, and it's very fun. And basically, because I don't want to talk about too much because I don't want to give away the spoilers.
No, no, no,
Um,
yeah.
but he has like a threat made to him, and he realizes that it's kind of the threat is linked to like an episode of Star Trek that he's made, like on the show.
Okay.
So it's not just he's in Star Trek and something else is happening. The thing that's happening is linked to the show itself. So it's really blends those things together.
Yeah. So there are I'm assuming there's I mean, you mentioned voice actors appearing.
Mhm.
The fact that it's not just Star Trek is the location, if you know
Mhm.
what I mean. So, it's a story set in the time he was filming Star Trek. So that's the location, but it could be set, on a cruise ship. It doesn't matter. It is directly tied in with Star Trek and references and plot points and stuff that will come up. So, if you're a big fan of Star Trek, you're going to enjoy this book a lot more than somebody who's just like, oh, it's a fun mystery book.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing about it. So I hadn't heard of this book either, and me and my wife were gonna go. We were driving somewhere. It was like a last minute decision. Like, let's go here for the day. We've got like a 2 hour drive or whatever. Um, what should we put on? And my wife was like, "Oh, I found a few things I think you would like. Here's some like different things." And one of them was this. And I was like, "Oh, interesting. Who's it by?" Blah blah blah. I had no idea it was a Brent Spiner book that was full of Star Trek references.
Right.
So my my wife like knows Star Trek, but isn't like a Star Trek fan. Um, so we put it on, not knowing what it would be. And the interesting thing is that like my wife really enjoyed it just for the narration, the writing.
Mm.
Like it's really clever, it's funny, and it's also interesting. Like the actual thriller noir aspect of the book is better than a lot of actual noir
Right.
thriller that I read. Where I'm like, how come? Just because he's such a good writer and he's so clever that it's still engaging. So my wife really enjoyed it for that. And then on top of that, for someone like me, I'm like, haha, I get that reference. I know who that is. Oh, why is Geordie LaForge suddenly speaking? Like this is oh, it's actually his voice. Oh, that's cool. Like and like the jokes that he writes in for those characters to speak and say and stuff like that is it's really good. So it's multi-layered in that way.
Mhm. So was it actually made during the time so it's set during the time he was filming TNG? Was it written and recorded around that time as well, or was this something done way after the fact and he managed to get the crew back together?
Way after. I think from what I can tell, it actually came out like this year.
Okay, well, I feel less bad about not knowing about it then.
Yeah, it's recent, but even still, it's recent. But I've not heard of it. Um,
Where
but
did you listen to it, by the way?
so
And,
well, the
and I
annoying,
don't mean where. I don't mean where was the drive.
yeah, yeah.
I
We
mean,
were
what
going
platform did you find it on?
Leamington Spa is where we went. No, it was actually on. There's our library, local library, has like a thing that you can get audiobooks from the local library. So we listened to it through that thing, but it
Right.
is on Audible. I imagine it's on Spotify because most things
I-
are, but don't
I've just
quote me
found
on
it.
that. Cool.
I've just found it. a Mem-Noir inspired by true events, fan fiction.
Yeah,
Is that one right?
that's the one.
And I'm going to do something I've only done once before on this show, and that is buy it right this second.
Yay!
Tom, that does mean you will have to come back on for one of
Okay,
the Patreon episodes where we can go full spoilers and
brilliant.
review the book. So
Yeah, I'd love to.
I actually just recently finished. I was listening to a book by Greg Cox that was set to my personal recommendation for people. It's about a true crime podcast where they're investigating the disappearance of a marine biologist that
Okay.
disappeared in the 80s. And then it's also set in a period sort of in TOS, the series, and then in the movies sort of time as well.
Mm,
And it's this interconnecting story. Really good. I've just finished it. And I was thinking, what's next?
yeah.
What am I going to listen to?
Well, there
So
you go.
quite happy to have that. So okay. So in my mind, the kind of I'm curious, is it because I don't want to ask any questions that are going to be spoilery questions, but I
Yeah.
kind of want tone. So I'm images that are popping into my mind are things like This Is Spinal Tap or The Office or stuff like that, where it's sort of set. So what one is that more mockumentary style, which I'm
Mhm.
guessing. So I suppose my question would be: Are the characters? I mean, if I'm assuming he's referencing like Patrick Stewart, Jonathan Frakes, people like that.
Yeah.
Are they a kind of hyper realistic, like over the top version of themselves, or is it played a little bit more straight than that? And you're like, oh no, that probably is how Patrick Stewart would have reacted in that situation.
Again,
Knowing
from
how
a
close and good friends you are with Patrick
yeah.
Stewart and Jonathan
Well, I
Frakes,
know
I feel
how
like you're
the
free to ask.
I call him Patty. I know what he's
Okay,
like.
and that's why he
Uh,
calls you Tommy.
yeah, yeah. Um, and I also call him Patty when I'm patting on his little bald head.
Nice. He loves it.
He does. Gives you luck. Um, what was I saying? Yeah, so it's kind of a blend, which again I think shows how clever his writing is, where there's moments of you can tell that like Brent Spiner loves this person in real life.
Right.
Um, and it's never like it's never coming from a place from malice. It's never like, oh, isn't it funny that this character's like that? It's like he loves this person, and also it feels like everyone's in on the joke. So like the over
Mm-hmm.
the top nature of that character like comes across, and like it doesn't feel like it all feels like it works and makes sense for those people to behave that way. Um, and it's also there's also like uh what do you call them? Voice actors in it who aren't part of the show. They're just voice actors that normally do books and stuff. So it's like a
Right.
blend of like, and those are the characters who like aren't people from Star Trek. Um, but yeah, I would say it's like a weird. It's a good blend of both those things.
Nice. And I suppose if you've watched any of like the blooper reels and kind of behind the scenes things of TNG, they were silly. They
Yeah.
were kind of joking around and yeah, playing pranks on each other and messing about. So it's not. I think if you came in cold and like all I've seen is the show
Hmm.
and everyone is quite serious and everyone is taking this mission seriously, and then Brent Spiner's talking about them behaving in a certain way, you might feel like it's a bit of a kind of I don't know if I'd see Captain Picard behaving that way. But if you've seen, Patrick Stewart's reactions to things going on behind the scenes, then you'd be like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, he's having a good time and they're happy to be there, and he's not a stoic captain. He's, part of this ensemble family creating a TV show. So that maybe makes sense.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like with that, like you know that these people loved each other. Well, I guess kind of from season 3 onwards, after like certain people came in and came out. Um, and yeah, like you said, we've all seen the bloopers and them sort of mucking about and stuff, and it almost feels like if you're actually watching an episode of TNG and then you carry on watching it, but it like cuts and it's now behind the scenes and it's them talking and how they're behaving with each other. Like it has that kind of flow to it. And he goes into like detail about how he like takes the makeup off and all
Right.
that kind of stuff in a way that feels like it's based on reality, where like that kind of detail lends itself to the writing, but also makes you think like, oh, that's probably what it was like for him every day.
So it sort of sounds like it blends quite nicely a genuine memoir because and this satirical nature of it and kind of it being a little bit exaggerated
Yeah.
for, comedic purpose. But you would still, like, if you're a big fan of the behind the scenes of how shows get made and what goes on, you're still probably going to get something unique from this because ultimately, I suppose it's that one thing where even if he's making a joke, he's coming from a place of insight that you just don't have. And
Yeah.
you can almost work backwards and be like, oh, the fact that he's making, a little bit of a joke about this situation means this situation exists. And I'd
Mhm.
never really thought about that. And like the removing of the makeup is an example of that. It's obviously something he had to do every day. Is
Yeah.
get made up to look like Data, get it all taken off. And we know that. But it's sort of maybe it's like one of those subconscious things where you're just like, well, obviously you had to go through makeup and this and that. But what does that involve and what did that entail and how is that different from, I mean, I wonder sometimes I think about like the envy some of these actors must have had for ones like, oh, are you playing? Oh, you're playing a human. Oh, yeah, great, good, good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Human. Well, it's going to take so much time in the makeup chair. No, no,
That's
I'm an
what I
alien
was.
as well. What am I? I'm a betazoid. Oh, contact lenses. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I've just got like 4 lines on my forehead. Oh, brilliant. I always think about that for like things like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that as well,
Yeah.
where like you just got to put a costume on, but this person has to have full prosthetics for all of filming.
Mm,
Um, but
yeah.
the interesting thing as well of the book is like there's an excitement of like like listening into Brent Spiner being Data on the show. It does feel like you got that behind the scenes look of like, oh, this is him actually there, because it's set during 1991
Right.
TNG. So like he's fully in it. He knows what he's doing. Um, he'll even comment things like, "Oh, we're doing this episode, which isn't an amazing episode, but blah blah blah." Like the way that he talks about it is very like as if you're there with him doing it. But then in the same chapter, there's like a bit where it's just this long comedic thing of him trying to order a pizza. So it's just I think it feels more like something akin to like Naked Gun or something like that, where like
Right.
there's a real thing happening, but like everything feels a bit silly.
Yeah. But it's played completely straight.
It's played straight. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I quite like that. Is it at all jarring that it's Brent Spiner and not Data talking? Does that make sense?
Yeah, a little bit. Like there was a moment where, because also it's Brent Spiner now, so it's not Brent Spiner from
Yeah.
1991, so he sounds like older Brent Spiner. Um, and there was a weird thing where I was listening to it, trying to think of him speaking like Data, and you get so used to him speaking that you're like, oh wait, no, he spends the show being like, I think that's correct, sir. I think we should do that. Like that's not how he actually sounds at all. So
No.
there is a weird thing with that.
Yeah. Every time he says can't, you're like,
Yeah,
can't,
yeah,
can't.
yeah. Yeah, you used a contraction.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm going to reach off screen maybe. I'm currently reading this, which is
Right.
a
That is a
big old
tome.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is Monday's episode actually coming out. So this is the Star Trek Destiny trilogy, all 3
Right.
books in one,
Yeah.
and I am very slowly chipping away at this. So
Talking about Lord of the Rings, I have the Lord of the Rings as one book, like the 3 books.
yeah,
And I bought it just for the challenge of one day I'm gonna get through this.
yeah. Well, I mean, I pre-recorded that episode a while ago, and I'm that far through.
Yeah, geez Louise, man.
I've got this nice little Trekommendation sticker as a bookmark.
Oh,
So that will
shameless
be
plug.
a future, Patreon review,
Yeah.
but very future. But what it dawned on me last night because it jumps between the Enterprise and so far, I don't think Voyager's shown up yet, but it is in there apparently. But it's basically jumping between characters that and then new characters that have only appeared in the book. And I find it funny that when I'm reading a lot of dialogue, as soon as it hits on a character who I've seen in the shows, immediately I can hear their voice in my head.
Yeah.
And every line I'm reading is with their cadence. And
Yeah.
then I switch over to a new character and it's like, well, I have no idea. And it's just
Yeah.
goes to my default narration.
Yeah. Yeah. I do that a lot.
And yeah, and so that's why I was intrigued with the audiobook and the last audiobook we had mentioned. Oh, it's not true actually. We had an audio drama series because Sean
Of
spoke about
course.
Khan.
Yeah.
But I listened to the autobiography of Captain Janeway, and it's very interesting to hear because that's read by Kate Mulgrew. So again, you very quickly slip into like it just feels more believable,
Hmm.
and there are things that happen in that book, and we've done a full review of that book on Patreon, and boy, is it got some weird stuff that
Yeah.
happens, and I have some strong opinions on some of the stuff I think that is a
Mm.
bit weird, but you kind of have to also like, even though it's contradictory to other books, I mean, the Voyager universe, because it's her voice, you just accept it as like, well, that must be fact then.
Yeah.
Um, so I think having the different voice actors in this adds a level, even though it's clearly fiction, it adds a level of realism to it, in my opinion. Of like
Hmm.
you're just gonna get more bought in on the concept because you're like, well, it sounds like them,
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
must be true.
I remember Ellie once got frustrated with something because she'd read that novel, and then there was something that contradicted it in actual Star Trek, and or something like that, and she was like, why don't they just follow the, I can't remember what it was, but
Yeah. Well,
um,
I'm just gonna say this name, Amelia Janeway. Um, I cannot believe no one is talking about this.
right. I see.
So
I
that's all.
actually haven't read the
That
book.
is all I'm gonna say, and
Okay.
then people can go out, listen to that book, come back, and if you've got a little bit of coffee money spare, go to my Patreon and listen to me and Leah Sci-Fi dig down deep into more
Amelia.
how she would have felt in that situation than me. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
I've had the
But
inverse effect with that, where there was a book I was going to read or listen to, and it was narrated by Kate Mulgrew, and
right,
I couldn't do it because I was like, this just is Captain Janeway reading something to me.
right,
Like,
yeah.
it just felt really weird.
Because I'm assuming this was a non-Star Trek book then.
Yeah, it was nothing to do with Star Trek, and but it
Yeah,
just like I just was like, oh, why get anyone else? Like, this doesn't work for my brain. But
yeah.
yeah,
It is
it was surprising when I was listening to this because again, I didn't know it had the people. I came to this
right
really fresh, so it was a big surprise, and I just assumed it'd be Brent like doing everyone's voice and stuff, and then
because
like
he can do pretty good sort of
yeah,
impressions of people's voice as well. So like you'd be forgiven. He'd be forgiven if he did that, and you'd very
yeah,
quickly settle in to it.
he
So,
would
oh, this is
accept.
just like listen to him at a con where he's recounting a story and putting on voices.
Yeah,
Um,
but
yeah.
something about it being the actual people, there's a really nice warm feeling with it where you just feel like, oh, like these people all wanted to be involved and they put the time in to lend their voices, and it, to
Mhm.
me, it's my favorite Star Trek show is TNG. And the funny thing is as well is that like some of my favorite episodes of Star Trek aren't in TNG. There's like some DS9 episodes are my favorite episodes, but as a whole, the show TNG is my favorite because it feels really warm and relaxed, and you know what you're getting into. Um, and like that's what this book feels like. So if you are a fan of TNG in that way, this book should hopefully really work for you.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna have to listen to it. Then I'm gonna have to tell my mum about it. She's gonna have to go and listen to it. She's also a big TNG fan. And it's funny. I was having this. Somebody asked me and this is the problem of doing all the calibration questions and me questioning people all the time, is then they'll throw questions back at me. And somebody asked me about like, what's your favorite Star Trek?
Mm.
And very similar to you, I said, like, I don't think it's got necessarily the best episodes, but to me, the quintessential Star Trek is TNG.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that I was born in '87 might play into that, but
Yeah.
like I grew up and TOS was kind of the old Trek, classic Trek,
Hmm.
and TNG was the new modern Star Trek. And I can't, even though it's not necessarily the case, I cannot help but think of Deep Space Nine and Voyager as spin-offs
Yeah.
of TNG.
That's still how I
Great
feel.
shows, but they're spin-offs. And
Yeah.
TNG is like the flagship, and that is, even though it had finished when the other shows were still going, it's
Hmm.
like, but that's, and you know, and I suppose the fact that we got movies of TNG tells you that that was also viewed as like the main Star Trek at the time, I
Yeah.
suppose. Um, and and I actually rewatched First Contact the other day, and it's the first time I've watched it since listening to the autobiography of Captain Janeway.
Right.
And when she pops up as an admiral,
Hmm.
I have thoughts immediately,
Right. Well, that
and
book
I'm like,
really changes some things for you.
it does, it does. There's also a thing about now have this theory. Oh, I hope Ellie and Linda and these ones aren't listening, because I tell you what, Janeway gets promoted way too quickly every single time.
Right.
It made me feel even worse for Harry Kim,
Yeah.
because I was like, I cannot believe this woman that just got promoted, basically like, oh, this job's available, but this job needs to be, you know, a lieutenant, and you're only an ensign, so we'll make you a lieutenant.
Hmm.
It's like that, not you've qualified, now we'll give you the job. It's like, well, we want to give you this job, so we'll knock you up a rank.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then she's calling Captain Picard, and she's an admiral.
Yeah.
And
That
I'm like,
doesn't.
how's she jumping Picard in rank? What's going on here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially with some of the decisions she made on Voyager. I mean,
I know. We did a video about that recently, and it was something along the lines of like every time Captain Janeway was right, but like no one else would listen or something. And there's a lot of them where I'm like, okay, yeah, that's probably right. But there's somewhere I'm like, I don't actually know if I agree. Like that kind of decision she made feels very much like she doesn't care about anyone else's opinion. Like it
yeah.
feels very strange.
And I, this is ruining this. This is why I've got no one on Patreon, because I'm revealing it all now. But I think also I said that for me the worst bit of the book was that when she talks about the time on Voyager,
Right.
because she touches on some of the decisions she made that were questionable, and for some reason, just hearing them just said aloud without the context of the whole episode, without, you know, the kind of emotional turmoil and back and forth of this and that, you're just like, no, that sounds wrong. That just
Mm.
sounds like you're just. And even when she's saying, oh, certain decisions, she still like feels a bit the guilt for them. You're like, yeah, because it was wrong.
Yeah, yeah, because you made an insane decision. Let's hope Ellie doesn't listen to this episode. But I've always felt that I like Janeway, but I feel like they made some very strange choices with her, and they put her in situations where she had to make hard decisions. But the way she went about it wasn't always a way that made me like her as a captain, which I don't know if
Mhm.
was the point. But if it was the point, it was a confusing one. I've always said, and this is an opinion of a lot of people, that it should have been like a survival, like a year in hell, or whatever it's that one's called, Year of Hell.
Yeah,
Um, that kind of should have been what Voyager was. I don't know if you've ever seen the show or read the book The Terror. Um, it's one of my favorite TV shows. That's a nothing to do with Star Trek,
yeah.
but that's a
Bonus
recommendation.
track recommendation.
Yeah,
Yeah, without the Trek, it's just
yeah. There is
a
there is a
plain old
track in it.
recommendation.
Yeah, but it's called The Terror, and I actually think the TV show is better than the book, because it has a lot more heart to it, which I like, and also visually and whatever, blah blah. But it's about a real life expedition when they were trying to find the Northwest Passage during the 1800s, and the Erebus and the Terror, the two ships get stuck in the ice, and all the people go missing. And but it adds like supernatural horror elements to it.
Right.
And that's, to me, that's what Voyager should have been, where it's the same thing of these people being stuck in this position where they don't know what to do, and they have to go through really hard choices. The things are happening to the crew. You've got mutiny, you've got different people plotting against each other, you've got people having to promote people who wouldn't have been promoted normally to that position, but they have no choice. All that stuff that like exists in the show, but it kind of exists on the surface level rather than what the show is. And I think that's because, like we said earlier, TNG is the best Star Trek show. There's no question about it. It is the best Star Trek show. Like TOS, like you said, it was the older show, and it definitely, we wouldn't have Star Trek without TOS. But TOS kind of feels like what old Doctor Who feels like sometimes, where it's like, yeah, there's some great stuff there, but it's dated and there's stuff that's silly in it. Because of that, we have the newer stuff, and there's some great new stuff, and there's also lots of bad new stuff. But I probably
Smart
upset.
trying to get Ellie back on board.
Yeah, I know. But TNG is kind of the staple of what we go back to of what Star Trek is. I think it's been, and that annoys some people. A lot of people, when we complain about new Star Trek, they go, "Well, this isn't TNG. We've moved on." Blah blah blah. And I always think, yeah, but think about the Star Trek that we all love. TNG was the base for that. It created that thing that we now know as Star Trek. DS9 and Voyager were a spin-off from that, which sometimes was great, sometimes wasn't, when it was too much like TNG. But it was the basis for that. Enterprise was the same. And then after Enterprise, there was nothing until 2009 Star Trek, which kind of changed things again. And they never really went back until Picard season 3 to be like, well, what made TNG so good, and how can we do that? So I think as much as TNG is, such a good point of view for Star Trek, the problem with Voyager is that it was trying to be both TNG and also its own thing, and it couldn't really make up its mind. I'm so sorry, Ellie. This all is turned into a Voyager bashing. I do like Voyager, I should say.
And I should also just say, former guest of the show, and also person that said, and I listened to every single episode, so I'm really happy to be on here. Lil Voyager Comics.
So sorry. You did say at the beginning that I'm the person known for hating Star Trek, and I've turned this show that celebrates Star Trek into complaining, but I can't help it. It's how I communicate.
But your Trekommendation is set in your favorite Star Trek, which is TNG.
That's true.
Using your favorite characters, which is probably why it speaks to you. That being said, if you are, an Ellie or a Shez or a Linda or any of the other people that are like, Voyager is the best Star Trek ever, would they still enjoy this book, even if maybe you're not as familiar with TNG?
I think so. I think, like I said earlier, I think you can enjoy this book without being a Star Trek fan. And even as a Star Trek fan, I think you could enjoy this book. I think it would speak to a lot of people more than... And I also think it would be interesting having a sequel that would be set maybe post Next Generation or during the films, and he could go onto a Star Trek set and be like, oh, here's Kate Mulgrew, or here's, the Deep Space Nine crew. Like, there's lots of stuff that you could do to involve more people.
Yeah. Or set during the filming of Picard.
Yeah,
that
all
would
that.
be interesting.
Yeah.
It'd be
Patrick
great to hear his reaction to some of those things.
Yeah. I with just because it's in my head, with the TNG films, I don't know about you, but I kind of have always seen them as like a what if kind of thing, rather than an actual this is what happened next, because
Right.
they were so silly
Different.
and different, and like, Star Trek Generations was a really strange beast, and that trying to do the old with the new and stuff, it felt like, what if Patrick Stewart met William Shatner and they were both in Star Trek? And then the second one is like, what if Patrick Stewart was an action hero and they had to fight the Borg, and the Borg now have a Borg queen? That doesn't make sense, but it's cool. And then, it kind of feels like, what if? That's kind of how I see the films.
Okay, well, what about this then? What if
Yeah.
the same way the Kelvin timeline was different because the Romulans went back in time and altered something. Them, the Enterprise going back in time to help, Zephyr and Cochrane do that first flight and all of that,
Yeah.
that did slightly just nudge the timeline. So
Hmm.
it is a separate timeline, but it's very, very close
Yeah.
because everything kind of played out the way it should, but it played out the way it should through their manipulation over
Yeah.
just it happening naturally. So it's very close, but it is still its own separate timeline.
Yeah. I think about that stuff. I mean, imagine how many times they've gone through different portals and time zones and stuff like that
Yeah.
in Star Trek and changed certain things. I have an issue with time travel as a concept in media because how many times have you been told, "Don't think about it and then just enjoy it doesn't really make any sense." I'm like, "Well, that's all well and good, but when it's a sci-fi show that's about thinking about it,
Yeah.
if I'm not supposed to think about it, what's the point in doing it?"
Yeah.
I get
I
really
think the
confused.
problem is we think about things after the fact, right? So
Mhm.
like you can sit down and enjoy, but then you've got, if it's 2 hours, you've got another 22 hours of a day left. So you're like, that's time to ponder on the thing I've seen and to start thinking about it. And
Yeah.
therefore I will be questioning stuff. Like during the moment, no. But after the fact, I'm gonna be thinking it. Like ideally you want that, right? You don't want me to watch your thing and then as soon as I turn it off, I
Yeah.
forget about it. Like that's
Well,
not good.
let's to bash Voyager one more time,
Here we go.
just because it's a good example. Harry Kim dies, and the new Harry Kim is from a different timeline that is just now Harry Kim on the show.
Yeah.
And my dad like rewatched Voyager again like last year or the year before, and he just messaged me being like, "I forgot Harry Kim died." And I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
they kind of want you to forget that, but
Mhm.
because it doesn't matter, it does leave you feeling like, well, why does anything matter in the show
Yeah.
if you can kind of do what you want?"
That was my, I think discussing it recently with someone, I said maybe that's why he was still an ensign by the time they got back is because he was like so close to getting promoted. And then
Yeah,
when they swapped him over, they're like, well, we've got to start again because we don't
yeah, we
know this
don't know if
guy.
you're the same. We gotta we gotta check. Just give you another 8 years, and then we'll have a look.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So we've discussed your book, which now I want to go and listen to. So
Yeah,
I'm excited about that. It's hard because I had lots of questions, but because I'm definitely going to listen to it, I don't want, and because it's a
yeah,
mystery, it's even more like
yeah.
spoilers are a problem.
It
So
matters to hear it yourself for the first time. So
yes,
I've really tried to stay away from saying anything about it.
no, but I love that. I also love that it is a, you're saying it's Star Trek adjacent. I feel it's that perfect. That is, it's right in the zone where I'm like, that's the purpose of this show as well.
Okay,
It
cool.
is those things that are just, you know, uh, it's not an episode of Star Trek, but it's
Yeah,
something that people that love Star Trek will like, and it's it's kind of hitting all the key notes there. So I'm excited to listen to it and happy. And if that is opening the door for other people that are like, well, hold on a second, if that's a recommendation, then
hmm
just you wait. Great. That's that's what's going to keep this show alive. So
yeah.
that's
Well, I'm
important.
I'm glad I could be of service because I very nearly chose the Klingon Bible as a joke and then realized I don't want to talk about that for an hour. So I actually thought of something real.
Yeah. Okay, but if somebody else wants to come on and
Yeah.
recommend the Klingon Bible, it's currently available. So
Yeah.
there you go. Wonderful. So I do need though, before I let you go,
Okay.
just to ask, um, which I mean, after having alienated a portion of the audience,
Yeah.
we will still ask: is there anything you would like a recommendation about? Is there any part of the greater Star Trek universe that you've not explored as fully as you would have liked to?
Interesting. Um, I think. I mean, we kind of spoke about this the other day on our podcast, um, where there are a lot of Star Trek novels out there,
Mhm.
and there's so many that I don't know where to even begin, what's good, what I should start with. So, a specific Star Trek novel that is a great way to get into them, I think would be good. And also, if possible, an audio version, like an Audible an audiobook
Right.
because I read and listen to, like, I'll be reading a book and listening to a different book at the same time. I kind of just read loads at the same time.
Oh
Um,
dear.
yeah. Um, so I like having lots of things on the go,
Yeah.
and if I could have a Star Trek audiobook on the go, that would be great because I never really know where to start. So
Okay. Star Trek audiobook, knowing that this is a man that loves TNG and has his
yeah,
opinions about Voyager. So there we go.
that's true.
But and his opinions about Voyager pale in comparison to his opinions about season 5 of Discovery. So
Yeah,
just to recalibrate people in case they skip the calibration questions. There we go. Well, Tom, thank you very much for coming on, for bringing your recommendation, for the fun tangents and detours we went on. Um,
yeah.
yes,
Thank you for having me, and I should tell everyone I do have ADHD and sometimes talk about things that aren't related. So hopefully it wasn't too much of tangents, but
that's
I'm
right.
I'm
Well, if they've
happy.
ever listened to an episode of Trek Culture, they'll know there's a.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. I know that it's
I
all
was going to
nonsense.
say there's a structure to that, but it's almost the opposite of what I mean.
Yeah,
Tom, if people do, we've mentioned Trek Culture, but you're more than just Trek Culture. So if people
I
want
am.
to follow you, find out what you're doing, any projects you're working on, where is the best place? What are they going to discover?
Yeah.
This is your opportunity. Plug away.
Okay. So yes, I am on most social medias, Instagram, Twitter, although I try not to use it and I avoid it at all costs because it's a hellhole. Blue Sky, which I think you are not on, Jason, by the way.
I'm not.
Get on Blue Sky, please,
Okay.
because I tried to tag you and you were not on it. It's like Twitter, but slightly less awful.
Okay.
And yeah, Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, most of the things. I have a Patreon. I am a writer as well as TrekCulture. I write books. I've got 2 books out. One is called, the first one in a series, which is A Slave's Pilgrimage. The first one is called Witch Hazel. The second one is called Hands Beneath the Sea. That is a dark fantasy, gothic, slightly noir book. I always say to people, think of The Witcher meets Blade Runner meets Bloodborne, if people have played that game, that kind of Victorian style. I have 2 of those out. I'm writing another series at the moment. I do lots of writing. I can't be stopped. And I have a Patreon if you're interested in learning more things about that as well.
Excellent. Okay. And well, no, I'll put the links in the description.
Don't get me started.
So, well, you have to have a look and see if they're there. So thank you again to Tom. Thank you everybody for listening. Apologies to all the Voyager heads out there.
Not me. I
Yeah,
don't apologize for nothing.
but come on the show and share a wonderful Voyager recommendation. There's been a couple already shared, so actually,
Yeah,
in the
I'm.
grand scheme of things, scroll back through all the episodes, life balances itself out. Don't
Yeah.
worry. Um, but yes, wonderful. And I will be back next week with another guest and another recommendation.